Hey, before we begin, just need to get some housekeeping out of the way. So first, if you like this video, please remember to give me feedback by liking the video so I know it's worth making more just like it. And if you didn't like it, please tell me why in the comments. Feedback, positive and negative, really does matter to me. And also remember to subscribe if you'd like to get new notifications of when new videos come up in the future, and share this with folks you like and show us both some love and good thoughts. Also, for those of you who are interested in palm reading, there is a live virtual palm reading class that I am teaching on March 6th, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. This will be online, so it will be accessible from anywhere on the globe. And we'll be doing it, if I'm not mistaken, because there's a college hosting the expo, it will be done by Zoom. So everything will be live streamed through Zoom and we'll all be participating together. It's going to be a lot of fun, and this format, this Zoom online streaming format, is going to make it possible to more effectively teach basic palm reading to a group than I could do in person or by straight video. So I'm very excited about this. If you're interested in attending this class, please look in the description box below for the link to the college website expo, where you can register for the expo and get access to the class. I'm not sure if I'll be able to rerun the video later, but I will certainly do my best to make a copy of it for you, which won't be the same as actually attending and also being able to attend all the other live virtual classes at the expo as well. So be sure to check it out. I'm looking forward to seeing some of you, and let's get on with the video. Welcome to the Down to Earth Astrology and Primal Girl Wellness podcast and video. This is Ms. Jenny, and I am your astrologer. This video is specifically about the Mercury station direct occurring at 11 Aquarius on February 20th, 2021 at 8 p.m. Washington, D.C. time. The exact station direct will be occurring a little earlier or later depending on where you are on the globe. This time has been set up specifically for Washington, so you'll have to make your adjustments accordingly. The name of this video is called The Iceman Cometh for two reasons. One, if you haven't had a chance, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but if you have not had the chance to watch the screenplay, movie, or read the book, I highly recommend that you do. It's very timely at this point. And also this is dedicated to all those poor residents of Texas who are suffering unbelievable catastrophic events right now because of a freak snowstorm that is covering the south and southwest of the United States. So with that said, let's get on with the astrology. Okay, this Mercury station direct is occurring at 11 Aquarius, and this one is carrying a power punch with it. Wow, what a Mercury station. So some things you should understand. Mercury stations, direct and retrograde, Mercury changes directions a couple times a year. It's honestly not that big a deal, and it's not that earth-shaking, and it's not that magical, and it's not anything actually very impressive. You know, it's an inconvenience, right? Kind of like masks. Some people think it's the end of the world, and most people know it's really just an inconvenience. Temporary at that. However, my friends, this particular Mercury station direct is different, and here's why. Let's break this down. So the Mercury station direct at 11 Aquarius is going to be doing the following things at this degree. One, it will be turning direct in the decanate of Gemini. It will be turning direct simultaneously in the Dwadamsha of Gemini. At the same time on this day, the moon will be trining that Mercury station from the sign Gemini, which will also be conjunct the fixed star regal. And here you go, my Astrology 101 students. What is the ruler of Gemini? That's right, Mercury. And which planet is going direct right now? That's right, Mercury. This gives us an unbelievable emphasis on this particular Mercury station. So the question becomes, well, what does this mean, Charlie Brown, and how do we use it, and what should we know about this Mercury station? We're going to get to that in a second. The last bit of information I want to give you about this particular degree of Aquarius that Mercury is making its station in is that it will, in the Sabian symbols, it will be occurring under the description, during a silent hour, a man receives a new inspiration which may change his life. So this particular Mercury station at 11 Aquarius with all this Gemini emphasis, and then also the Sabian symbol. These are all about the mind, right? And perspective, literally getting your mind right, and maybe even possibly getting your mind right and having your come to Jesus moment. I'm just saying. So let's take a look and see what else we've got going on. So let's start with the Sabian symbol, because this is really an important clue about the ramifications of this Mercury station. Phase 311, Aquarius 11 degrees. During a silent hour, a man receives a new inspiration which may change his life. Keynote: the need to rely upon inner inspiration and guidance at the start of new developments. What is implied here is the essential value of keeping open to the descent of spiritual or soul forces, especially when a new period of individual activity is about to begin. The individual should not depend mainly on outer circumstances and on traditional, and in a sense external, because collectively formulated, incentives. There is a creative power within, a power that can be tapped, or rather, that should be allowed to flow into the brain consciousness, or the hands which write or fashion materials into original forms. This is the first stage in the 63rd sequence of 5 phases of activity. It refers to the overshadowing of the individual consciousness by an inner yet transcendent power. The Sabian symbol description is brought to you by Mr. Dane Rudyard, who's just an eminent astrologer from days gone by. And one of the things that we know is that during this time, with all this Gemini emphasized under this particular degree, this is very much about communications and information and our minds, right? And what this Sabian symbol tells us is that we need to get our rigid perceptions of how reality works and our egos out of the way. We need to step aside from ourselves and let divine information flow into and through us for us to get the most out of this. So people who are working in situations where divine assistance is definitely helpful and operates a lot more frequently than they might like to admit to. Artists, writers, creative people, surgeons, sculptors, people who do things with their hands, who have to kind of go into that space, right? That very focused space, are going to really feel this is a supercharged Mercury station. We're feeling it today, and we're going to keep feeling it for a couple of days afterwards. But this particular station is like the power center of all of it. So it's a power-packed day, and some really important stuff is going to come through. People who write or speak or sing or all of these things are going to happen. For people who don't do those things or aren't involved in those things as a regular thing, do not despair. This is still happening for you. It's just not necessarily going to be something that you're going to recognize when it's happening. Ultimately, for all of us, if we can get out of our own way and shut up and get silent in our heads and let wisdom and guidance and information come to us from sources without passing judgment on it, we're going to be amazed at what comes through in the form of inspiration, invitation, or influence. Okay, and now let's take a look at the chart itself. So a couple of things as you're looking at this video. So the first thing I just want to draw your attention to is the right side of the screen. If you have not read this book, I highly recommend it. It's called The Power of Eight. And Lynn McTaggart is a journalist / writer who's done a lot of she's just written some amazing books. And a lot of what she focuses on, or she's well known for, are her books investigating the metaphysics and literally delving into the research that's been done on it and talking to science and scientists, who've seen and witnessed these things and have actual records of these things, not necessarily explanations that they're satisfied with. And discusses this from a much less woo-woo kind of perspective. She's a phenomenal writer. There's a lot of science in her discussion of the metaphysics. The Power of Eight is very much a book that's written about the science behind and the research that we do have documented about the power of collective mind. When you have multiple people who get together and harness their and focus their mental energy and thoughts to a specific outcome separate from themselves and unified in their focus, right? So for those of you who are more familiar with religious or metaphysical activities, you might think of these as prayer groups, right? Or I don't know what else they would call it, but these are groups where you have, multiple people get together and they'll have these circles where they put intentions and thoughts towards specific people or situations in the group all together at one time. And according to Lynn McTaggart and the research that she's dug up about this, these people do not have to physically be in the same place. You can literally be in multiple parts of the globe and simultaneously do this from wherever you're at, as long as you're more or less on the same frequency and the same kind of time zone, right? I recommend the book, and this is going to be important in a few minutes, and it's specifically important to the transit that we're having now with Mercury station. Remember, Mercury station direct is occurring in Aquarius. This is the sign of humanity and groups. Aquarius is the sign of the people, the great, random, diverse, unwashed masses of people, not the elite few, not the homogenous many. It's everybody from every walk of life, every stripe, every presentation, and just random and diverse. Those are the two keywords with Aquarius, right? Because humanity and the globe is random and diverse. The animal kingdom is random and diverse. The flora and fauna of nature is random and diverse, and that's what makes it so outstanding and breathtaking and wonderful. Mercury is stationing direct in a sign that speaks to and represents random and diverse humanity. So, with that said, the moon also will be trying this, giving even more jet fuel to the activities of this Mercury station. This moon will be in conjunct the fixed star Regal, which has a lot to do with technical genius and writing and comedy, and the ability to communicate efficiently and in ways that make major improvements, right? And also more than a little bit of luck. So if you'd like to look it up, Regal is the fixed star, but this potent fixed star with the moon trining Mercury double and triple emphasizes this Mercury station and the benefit that can come out of it if we apply our intentions the right way. This is not, and Gemini also is the sign of the pedestrian or the common man. These are not the signs of me, mine, my. These are the signs of us, our, them, us, them, all of us being in this together. I know some people don't want to hear that, but that's really what this is about. It's no longer your island, Spanky. We're all living here. Now, the Mercury station direct will also be very, very close to Jupiter, which is good. Now, I don't want to go out on a limb here and say it's all going to be, hunky-dory roses and cotton candy, because it's not. Because Mercury is simultaneously trapped, or flanked, I should say, on the other side by Saturn. So Mercury, being a neutral planet, is now sitting between a classical, traditional, malefic Saturn, the old party pooper, and Jupiter, the big old gas bag that brings the party. So alternating back and forth between pessimism and optimism is going to be literally feeling like you're on a seesaw, up and down, up and down, up and down. However, with that moon in Gemini, which also represents the two minds or two opinions, the dual perspective, trining this Mercury, it's going to give us the opportunity to, if we work with it, not only to see both sides of a situation or a problem or a solution or a viewpoint, it will also allow us to find an ingenious solution to whatever problem we're facing hidden between there. So it's a pragmatic optimism, right? Or not pessimism, but a realistic sense of what's possible with limitations and finding ways to work with it instead of being consumed by the idea that there's nothing you can do. Oh, it's all lost. Yeah, none of that. Mercury's applying to Jupiter, not Saturn. So the whole Othelian, the darkness of the sky is behind us, not ahead of us. Now, in this particular chart with Washington, D.C. rising, what I thought was also interesting is the ascendant for the exact for the moment of the station direct exactly is late Virgo. It's 27 Virgo on the Washington, D.C. chart. Virgo is ruled by what? What planet rules Virgo? Come on, Astrology 101 students, I know you know this. Come on, you know it. That's right, Mercury. So we've got quadruple emphasis on this Mercury station here in the United States, especially around Washington. Which is good because we could certainly use some ingenious solutions. And boy, there's a whole lot of people in Washington that really need to come to Jesus moment. And they've needed it for a long time. So maybe now, finally, they'll get it through their thick heads to shut up and listen to what God or Goddess is trying to tell you. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Okay, so now this becomes a question of, so what is, I know, listen, let's all admit it, this is really what this is about, well, what about me? Well, here's what's about you. So we can actually make this work for us, but in order to do that, we have to recognize that this is not just about us, right? So start here. We've got that Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, like line up real close together. Mercury's leaving Saturn, moving to Jupiter. Saturn has everything to do with limitations, and Jupiter has everything to do with possibilities. Are these two things contradictory? No, absolutely not. Limitations allow us to focus and narrow our resources to their most effective use, right? Because it gives you boundaries to work with. We need boundaries. We love Saturn because Saturn gives us boundaries to work with, to build up from. Otherwise, we'd be all over the place. Jupiter gives us a direction above and beyond pessimism to move toward, and the confidence and expectation that it can and will work out if we just keep moving, right? Keep believing and keep moving. These two together, phenomenal placements. We like that. Now, get rid of that. With this moon over here, trining that, we've got more emphasis on that, and we've certainly got things that are much easier, right? Now, what also happens is because the moon and north node are together. Yeah, baby. Now, there are some schools of thought that believe that whenever the moon and the north node, or any planet, is in the degree of the node, that fated and fateful circumstances are at play. The thing to remember also, too, about your nodes, especially the north node, is the doorway or the gateway to the world around you. The north node is an impersonal placement because it is the point where you must interact with the world outside of your safe space, right? So it's the world outside of your home, it's the world outside of your immediate blood family, it's the world outside of your tight little island of reality you've built around yourself. The north node represents the world out there and the people in it. So anytime the north node is activated or we're demanded to participate in that, that means that we have to also accept that there are things that we're going to be dealing with that are not in our wheelhouse and certainly not familiar and comfortable for us, because random, diverse humanity. That's Aquarius. Now we've got the north node, which is the random and diverse people outside of our personal island of reality. In Gemini, the common man, and also dual perspective, my perspective and yours. With the moon there, trining this Mercury and Jupiter, there is an encouragement and a request, not a demand, but a request, to open up your field of vision to include multiple perspectives above, beyond your own, and to think of people other than yourself. Think of cultures and ways of living and ways of seeing things other than your own. Open the damn windows, for God's sakes, and look outside. There's a whole world out there that looks nothing like the one you live in inside your house. The only way you're going to get along, unless you plan to stay in your house forever and never leave it again, is you're going to have to start understanding how it works out there and finding ways to make this work with everyone, find ways to cooperate, which is also very Gemini Aquarius. So this particular Mercury station, in order for us to make this work for us, we also have to make sure that we're doing something that works for other people too. Ultimately, you may or may not get any benefit out of this, but if you don't work on, get rid of this, sorry. if you don't work on making this a community thing, right? All for one for all, Three Musketeers sort of stuff, or Robin Hood, not the stock group. You'll get very limited benefit out of it if you get any benefit at all. Ultimately, our greatest gains come later in life and are not like snap your fingers and it arrives like, Amazon Prime packages. So part of this is investment into the future. Aquarius is a future ruled sign, and Gemini is a very here and now sign. So the two together means that the actions and decisions we make and the seeds we plant right now will bear fruit in the future. So the question becomes, what kind of fruit do you want blooming in the future? And how robust do you want those plants to be? Selfish seeds will die on the vine before they bloom. Seeds that are planted in community gardens so that everyone can eat from it and thrive and survive with it will also yield fruits and dishes and things that you didn't know were possible because it's not normal or new for you, and it's new for you, but it's very common for other people, and their ability to have that to share with you later is what's going to make the difference in your ability to have wealth, spiritual, emotional, physical. It's all about abundance of resources, not just money. For those of you who are here in the United States with a 27 Virgo rising chart for this particular Mercury station, I also want to point out some things that I thought was interesting. One, the decadent for this ascendant for the Washington, D.C. chart is Taurus. Taurus is Venus ruled and the moon is exalted there and it is feminine. The Dwadamsha of 27 Virgo ascendant for this chart is Cancer, which is also moon ruled and feminine. So here we've got a very strong emphasis on women and feminine, and it may very well be that it's the women and people with feminine ruled values, family, home, hearth, food, that pull us through the day and get us out of this mess. The Sabian symbol for this degree rising is the ability to carry on a revered tradition in order to perpetuate cultural standards of excellence, also known as refinement. So the thing that I would say when it comes to refinement, remember, refinement isn't just having genteel manners. Refinement is also refining something down to its most true essential point, right? Making something as pure and clean and refined as we possibly can, right? So the maximum amount of everything in the smallest amount of purchase. Now, the description of this particular Sabian symbol, you can skip forward if you don't want to listen to this. Phase 177, Virgo, 27 degrees. A group of aristocratic ladies meet ceremonially at a court's function. Keynote: the ability to carry on a revered tradition in order to perpetuate cultural standards of excellence. At the highest peak of achievement of any fully developed culture, the king considers himself in some manner a representative of the power that controls the order of the universe. From him descends an hierarchy of offices performed by an aristocracy. On the feminine side, to be an aristocrat is to be able to act efficiently in the many rituals of a culture, from official tea parties to presentations at the court. Dignity, elegance, and respect for formal rules are essential. We may consider the formalism obsolete and meaningless, yet when it ceases to be observed, the culture breaks down. Even now, in this age of crisis and world transformation, there may be times when honoring formal procedures can be of great value for the disordered and rebellious mind. This second stage symbol presents the contrast between the profane and the sacred ritual, but the two need not be antithetic. Our over-individualistic and confused new generations find it valuable to study Japanese tea ceremonies, flower arrangement, judo, etc. The undisciplined need to learn refinement. So I'm not completely sure how this is going to play out, but it certainly speaks volumes. And we should see this echoed when it comes to the United States, and when we talk with aristocracy here, we're talking about government officials. So the bureaucracy, the government officials, the governing bodies, the educated classes, this should be something that comes up as an important theme right now with this Mercury station. So we'll see how that works out. And now for the fun stuff. So let's take a look at our personal charts. With the wind at your back and clear stars above you, I want you to look at your chart for planets at the following degrees: 11, 14, and 16 of any of the air signs, Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, any of the mutable signs, Pisces, Virgo, or Gemini. Now, if you don't have planets at these particular degrees in air or mutable signs, what I also want you to do then is add or subtract 3 degrees from any of those degrees, 9, 11, 14, or 16. Planets at these newly calculated points will also count as being activated. For example, if you have something at 9 degrees Libra, or if you don't have anything at 9 degrees Libra, subtract 3 degrees from that, and that's going to give you 6 degrees Libra. So anything from 6, 7, 8 to 9 also counts. You can also add 3 degrees, 9, 10, 11, 12. So anything at 10, 11, or 12 degrees Libra, for example, would also count. Make note of these points because this is where Divine Spirit will flow most clearly to you if you're willing to be humble enough to accept guidance from something or someone smarter than you are. How this will work in your chart is that at this time, wherever these things show up is where you may find that you're getting the most free flow of communication or interaction with the divine, right? So let's take a look at planets, for example. So let's say that you have a planet at one of these 3 degrees, and it is, let's say it's your Mercury. So your Mercury is at one of these degrees. You may find that divine communication, inspiration, or information comes to you suddenly or synchronistically or serendipitously through written communications, pieces of paper, random phone calls or text, emails, things that you weren't expecting may show up just in the nick of time. If you have Venus at one of these degrees, you may find that divine influence is going to appear most clearly in things that have to do with some form of artistic expression or feminine engagement. It could also come through clothing and fabric and jewelry. You may find something that you didn't know you have never been able to find for months suddenly turn up in places that are Venus ruled. If you have Mars at any of these degrees, you may find that in a fit of temper, yours or somebody else's, something may be said, accidentally blurted out is more the case, that really strikes home and uncovers some really necessary, needed information that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Also, it could be one of those things where an unhappy, because Mars is a malefic planet, an unhappy event could trigger a cascade of things that turn out to be the best thing that could have possibly happened to you. If you have Jupiter at this degree, at any of these degrees, expect some form of inspiration or just good old-fashioned luck to fall into your lap and give you information that will help or benefit you in some way. So be open and pay attention. If you have Saturn in this degree, you may find that in moments of solitude, when you take the time to just commune with nature or yourself in silence alone, is when this divine download is going to occur. So things that you do in solitude or solitarily as a solitary person will be of huge benefit when it comes to getting this information. If you have the moon at any of these degrees, what you may find is that your gut instinct and also your dreams, your subconscious is going to be able to give you lots of information. So if you're feeling a lot of insomnia these last couple of days especially, definitely check in and consider really actively focused meditation or even doing some self-hypnosis to clear the channels so that you can get the divine download without interference. If you have the sun at any of these degrees, you may find that you may find that you're being guided without realizing you're being guided. So you may find yourself doing or saying or choosing things without any conscious thought. It's going to seem as natural as the sun coming up until somebody points out to you that this is not very normal for you, like, or completely unexpected from you. And then there's going to be that moment like, oh, wait, oh, I guess I did. That is going to be divine influence working through you. If you have outer planets at these degrees, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, it's a little bit more difficult to see how this is going to play out because outer planets are transpersonal planets. With Uranus, because Uranus is also malefic, we can also expect things to come out of left field, or possibly these explosive, like, flashes of inspiration. It's very difficult to tell how this is going to come through with this lightning bolt intensity with a Uranus involvement with these degrees. If you have Neptune here, it's the same thing. You know, the doors are wide open, so you may be getting cross influences of both lower level spirits and higher level inspirations, and it's going to be challenging, as it usually is for Neptunian people anyway, to distinguish between which is which. So getting involved in more higher level Neptune activity will help keep you tuned into the right frequency so that you're not getting low level entities trying to mess up your day, as it were. And if you have Pluto at these degrees, again, much like the moon, gut instinct and dreams and subconscious activities is where you're going to get the most information. So meditation or some type of metaphysical involvement, again, same thing as with Neptune, because Pluto's an outer planet. Pluto's an outer planet. Same with those, you really want to engage in higher octave activities to try and tune into the right frequencies so that you're not pulling in lower level entities trying to screw up your bandwidth. So, and if none of this makes any sense to you, still just go with grace and God and know that right now the divine guidance that makes up the world, and certainly smarter than the rest of us, is actively trying to communicate with all of us. So all we have to do is let it tune in and let it flow. To review, and also just to clarify a few things, if you have the sun or moon in an air sign, Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, I wouldn't worry about the exact degree placement of your sun and moon. They both get a very, very wide orb or very generous range of contact by degrees because they're the sun and the moon. They're literally the heart of the horoscope, as well as the center of our universe, or our personal constellation that we're living in. So if you have the sun or moon in any of the air signs, don't worry about the degrees. With the other degrees, I'm more strict, and I like to keep a nice, tight, restrictive orb. I don't like big, wide, loose orbs or big, wide reaches because I think it's very sloppy. And at that point, there's just no, clearly I have this, I have an active Saturn in my chart. Because when you've got big, wide, sloppy orbs like that, then there's just no boundaries at all. And if you don't have any boundaries, what's the point, right? All right, so just a quick review about some other things that you can actively participate in to help facilitate divine transmission or download for yourself. If you have the sun making contact with this Mercury station, literally just be yourself and you do you, boo. You're going to be guided along, no problems at all. You've no special effort required. If you have the moon contacting this Mercury station degree, look for unconscious or nurturing activities. For example, sleeping, meditation, cooking, childhood-related things. Actively participating in those types of activities will create will facilitate the transmission to you more easily for this divine communication. I don't know how playing with Lego blocks or watching cartoons is going to do this, but clearly it's going to be just as efficient as breastfeeding or sleeping. So go figure. If you have Mercury contacting the Mercury station, all forms of communication, writing, reading, talking, and listening, understand that right now, whatever it is that you do that involves communication in any form will facilitate this information being downloaded or transmitted to you. So take heart, folks. Those voices in your head might not be psychosis central today. And Mars, I really especially wanted to point this out for people with Mars placements that are connected to this Mercury station. Obviously, temper tantrums, believe it or not, could lead to some some divine communication coming through your mouth or other people's. But also, too, you don't have to lose your cool for this to happen. Any work with sharp metal, scissors and crafts for those of you who are not samurais, military or metal workers, is just as good. Or any form of serious muscle effort will unlock more than sweat. So for those of you who are living in very snowy areas, believe it or not, chopping firewood and shoveling the snow, things that really require exertion, may be the very thing that unlocks this moment of, aha, you know. So go with it. And don't be surprised at what pops up in your little itty bitty head while you're doing it, because, there's divine influence at play right now. Jupiter, if you have Jupiter contacting its Mercury degree, again, just like the sun, be yourself and you do you, boo. Lucky coincidence right now is no coincidence at all. Saturn, if you have Saturn connecting to this Mercury station, any activity related to solitude and deep thought is what will pull the trigger. So yes, even holding the toilet hostage all by yourself so nobody else can get in there, even that counts. I wouldn't recommend it. There are probably better ways, but I'm just saying. Uranus, if you have Uranus connected to this Mercury station, be prepared to get divine transmission that disappears as quickly as it appears in random or bizarre ways. Pigeons talking to you? Sure, it could absolutely happen, but you'll have no proof. However, you will have results. People who have Neptune connected to this Mercury station, getting involved in and participating in doing art, music, meditation, watching ASMR videos, in doing some self-hypnosis, whatever you can lose yourself in that isn't an intoxicant or sexual will do the trick. And Pluto, for you Pluto folks that have Pluto connecting, or non-Pluto folks that have Pluto connecting to this Mercury station, massage, cough cough, of the non-sexual variety people, hypnosis, meditation, and deep, concentrated, focused thought on anything will induce a trance state which will allow and facilitate divine transmission. Also, Tantra, which is sexual, can also facilitate divine transmission. Which brings me to the footnote about sex and divine transmission. So, yes, Virginia, sex can be conducive to divine states and transmission experiences. However, in order to achieve that, it must be practiced voluntarily by two consenting adults with a loving, non-judgmental, and purposeful effort that is free of shame or guilt, so that the river of consciousness is not polluted. Unfortunately, for many of us growing up in a Judeo-Christian culture, shame and guilt go hand in hand with what we are molded into believing about our sexuality. So it's a little difficult to free ourselves of those shackles to get to a place where we can really have this intense divine experience through the union of two bodies, or three, or six, or however many people you're inviting to your party. Meanwhile, in Texas, USA, dozens of deaths were attributed to traffic accidents as people attempted to travel on the hazardous roads, the Associated Press reported on Thursday. The second most common cause of death has been carbon monoxide poisoning after people ran vehicles or generators inside their homes to keep warm. A mother and child were found dead in Houston on Tuesday after the woman started their car in a garage. A grandmother and 3 children were killed in a Texas house fire that officials said likely spread from their fireplace. At least 17 people have died from hypothermia or exposure to the cold, according to the Post. A man has been found dead, frozen to death in his recliner in Texas as winter storm death toll rises. So right now, we are having a freak snowstorm and cold front that has moved through the United States across the southern and southwestern parts of the country, where it typically never gets that cold, and certainly not for this long with this amount of snow and ice. It has unprecedented, isn't even the beginning of a description for it. One of the big challenges specific to the state of Texas apparently has to do with corporate greed and government leadership. because the state of Texas has decided at some point, in spite of 10 years ago and 10 years before that, so for at least 2 cycles of 10-year gaps, there have been freak snowstorms that have traveled through Texas and done the exact, not the exact same thing, but similar things in terms of weather and cold fronts and huge demands on power and real strong indications that the power generators and facilities all need to be insulated for extreme weather, even though it only happens apparently once every 10 years. The corporate leadership decided that they would rather keep their profits in the name of free market capitalism and not be part of the federal government's power energy regulations. So to avoid being required to do the same things that all the other states under federal regulation are required to do, which include insulating power units and transmission and having electricity stored, or energy rather, stored in case of emergencies like this, all specific to and in keeping with the desire to have the most profit, the maximal profit possible in the shortest amount of time. Regulations? We don't need no regulations. So because they didn't participate in that, they weren't required to do any of the safeguarding that comes with it under federal regulatory controls, which means that now that we've had this freak snowstorm come through Texas, they've had no energy saved up to give their residents. They've had no energy to access from anywhere. In the meantime, also because none of their facilities and their poles or anything else had been insulated for extreme weather, as would have been required under federal law, even if it doesn't happen but once every 20 years, even their own facilities and equipment has been freezing and dying, which has led to multiple days of sub-zero temperature in the entire state, which has millions of people in its populace, not hundreds or thousands, millions of people live in Texas. It's a huge demographic. So they've not only had power, no power at sub-zero temperatures for more than 24 hours, like 24, 40, we're going on for 3 days now, I think. As a result of that, also too, because nothing's been insulated, there's been no way to get electricity to them, and all of the pipes in homes have been freezing, which means that when some of the pipes freeze, the water pressure does weird things, and then the pipes burst in the house or outside. So they've literally had flooding inside houses where pipes have burst and water's flooded the house in sub-zero temperatures where they can't even run an electric space heater because there's no electricity whatsoever in the house, as well as pipes bursting on the street because, again, there's no way to keep anything warm, so all the pipes are bursting. Along with this, because it just gets better and better and better, they don't even have snowplows. There's a picture of a street where Texarkana is. So Texas is on one side of the highway and Arkansas is on the other. The Arkansas side is completely plowed. You can travel on it. The Texas side, literally just a mess of snow and ice because Texas doesn't even have snowplows because, you know, what federal regulations? We don't need no federal regulations. We're gonna make our own rules. And this is what you get. While this is happening, we weren't 48 hours into this freeze over where literally people were dying, freezing to death, literally freezing to death. There was a woman found on the sidewalk dead, laying on the sidewalk dead. So it had to have been hypothermia. Oh my God. While this is going on, the senator for Texas, Mr. Ted Cruz, the Christian Coalition right-wing, face of the nation, because that's the party he belongs to, the Bible-thumping, crazy conservative Christians that really don't care about anybody except themselves. He got caught trying to go to Cancun, Mexico. You know that place where he said that he agreed we should all build a wall because there's nothing but rapists and murderers in Mexico? Yeah, he was taking his 2 adolescent daughters to Cancun. And when he got caught and came back, his press conference, oh, and mind you, he did this without their mother or any other parents tagging along. Like, that's not completely creepy. When he got caught, he immediately changed his reservation and flew back 2 days early because, remember, February is a month of reckoning. Somebody who knows of his travel plans leaked that information to the press so they could see exactly when Mr. Cruz decided to actually come back to the disaster he was running away from. He had a press conference and he said, oh no, well, my daughters were in the house and they were bored and, really frustrated, and, all this snow, we can't do anything, can't go anywhere, and there's no power. So they, wanted to go to Mexico. So I figured if they were going to go, I should probably go and chaperone them. I'm just doing what a dad does. Yeah, nobody. Listen, I personally have had my own experiences with no heat in the house. Like, I went through an entire winter with no heat in the house, except for electric space heaters. Thank God we had that, and electric blankets. And I can tell you, even with that amount of heat that was available to me, it was brutal and traumatic, and I don't ever want to go through that again, ever. I cannot imagine what these people are Texas and going through, because on top of all of this, now they're running out of food because the grocery stores can't get food to them. The pharmacies can't get drugs to them. Nothing can move through Texas because the roads aren't even safe to drive, right? Remember, dozens of deaths were attributed to traffic accidents as people attempted to travel on hazardous roads because Texas does not have snowplows. So, and of course, Mr. Creepy, who's chaperoning adolescent girls without their mothers or other parents who are probably home distracted by the catastrophe that is Texas right now. Oh yeah, that looks good. He's heading to Cancun and only coming back because he got caught, and that's their senator. So, yeah, February is definitely a month of reckoning. So better watch yourself there, folks. Meep, meep. But don't think Ted Cruz is an isolated example. This also came in from a mayor in West Texas, February 17, 2021, Colorado City, Texas. A Texas mayor said he resigned hours after he posted an insensitive message telling residents only the strong will survive and the weak will perish during a deadly and record-breaking winter storm. No one owes you or your family anything, nor is it the local government's responsibility to support you during trying times like this. Tim Boyd, the now former mayor of Colorado City, wrote in a now deleted post on his Facebook. Boyd's rant was posted to his page on Tuesday, which marked more than 24 hours after several residents in the small town of 4,000 were left without power or water. Across the state, more than 3 million were without power due to the storm Tuesday, according to ERCOT's outage map. Sink or swim, it's your choice. The city and county, along with the power providers or any other service, owes you nothing. I'm sick and tired of people looking for a damn handout, he added. This is true, and it is given to you in its original context. I encourage you to Google it if you need proof of the veracity. And I also want you guys to remember this for the future. Sometimes, air quotes, tough love, it's just a lazy excuse for being a selfish and sadistic human being. How you can help right now. Hyperlinks for these organizations will be in the description box for the video. For Foodbanks, go to give.ntfb, N as in national, T as in trust, F and B as in foodbank.org. For community mutual aid organizations across the nation, www.mutualaidhub.org. If you'd like a list of other charitable and reputable organizations, you can go to marketwatch.com. The link for the story with a list of organizations will be in the description box with a hyperlink. And from the subheading in the story, as with most disasters, disaster experts recommend cash donations as they allow for the on-the-ground agencies to direct funds. And remember, even $1 means a lot, because $1 multiplied by many, many people is many, many dollars. So don't be embarrassed if that's all you can afford to give. And again, remember, under this Station Direct, the seeds that we plant right now under this Station Direct for the good of everyone, with that Gemini Aquarius influence, with that sense of community and that sense of reaching out your hand to your neighbor, all of these things plant, and that North Node with the Moon conjunct Regal, all of these things plant seeds for the future and future benefits. So if we want to plant really healthy, thriving plants that will benefit ourselves and the people around us, because that's the only way anything good comes of this. We have to do things with the greater good in mind. So if the only thing you have to offer is a lot of platitudes and, thoughts and prayers, you can take your thoughts and prayers and flush them down the toilet. Oh, with the boiled water from the snow that you had to melt. Oh, right, but you can't boil the water because you've got no power. Yeah, people in Texas are not trying to hear about thoughts and prayers, because thoughts and prayers are not flushing their toilets or keeping the pipes from bursting in their house or keeping their children from dying of carbon monoxide poisoning because they're trying to keep them warm in the car. Sometimes doing the right thing is just doing the right small thing. So every little bit counts. So while you're focusing on the things that you need and you're allowing the divine forces of the universe to transmit and download necessary information to you to help move you forward in a fruitful direction, understand also that you're being requested to participate in helping pull everybody else forward with you. Because we're not getting through this by yourselves. You are only successful when everyone works together. And remember, everyday miracles happen every day because of normal, regular people just like you doing the right thing. One small act of kindness or do-gooderness, whatever we would call that, doing the right thing. One small act of doing the right thing can literally start a cascade or avalanche of karmic goodness that you may not see the results of, but somebody else will benefit from. And from where they are, not knowing that it originated with you so far away from them, it's going to look like a miracle to them. And it's always worth it. Just a gentle reminder, like, subscribe, share, or leave a comment and feedback. And live virtual palm reading class with a virtual online Mind Body Spirit Expo. March 6, 2021. My class will be at 10:30 a.m. Mark your calendars and look for the link in the description.